Welcome back to my channel. I'm Joe with Smokin Joe's Pellet Barbecue. On today's video, I'm going to show you guys how I smoke some simple yet delicious beef short ribs on a pellet smoker. Stay tuned. Alright, so I'm starting with a 5-pound rack of beef short ribs. I did pick these up at Costco. So I'm just going to take these out of the package real quick. Alright, so I'm not going to trim any of the fat or silver skin off of this rack of beef ribs. In fact, about a month ago I did a comparison on smoking ribs by trimming the entire silver skin and fat off versus not trimming them. And I got to tell you, the ones with the fat and the silver skin on the rack tasted much better. There's even a larger barbecue channel than mine that did the exact comparison after I released my video. Didn't even give me a shout out or anything, but he did the exact same cook and he found that it was unnecessary to trim the silver skin along with the fat. All right, so let's go ahead and season our rack of ribs here. Again, keeping it simple. I've got my 20-year-old bottle of Wash Your Sister sauce right here. I like to use Wash Your Sister sauce on beef ribs as a binder because the flavor really complements the flavor of the beef rib. Again, we're just applying a little bit, not a ton, just to wet that surface a bit. All right, so the seasoning that I'm going to be applying to these ribs comes from Smokin Joe's. This is their 421 brisket rub, and I've already used about a quarter of this bottle, and it is fantastic. So I'm going to apply a light coating on the backside. This is a good SPG, and I don't know what else he has on it, but it tastes absolutely amazing. All right, let's apply a light layer on the top as well. Look at that. All right, so just pat your rub in a bit. Never rub it, just pat it down, just so it sticks to the ribs. I got my Lone Star Grill's pellet smoker running at 250 degrees. Let's head outside. All right, so I've got my Lone Star Grill's pellet smoker running at 250 degrees. And on this cook, I am going to be using these 100% pecan shell pellets from Smokin Pecan. So I know there's quite a few people out there chasing a smokier flavor out of their pellet smokers. And I got to tell you, if you're not using Smokin Pecan pellets, that is your problem. Once you use these, you will not go back. All right, let's load up our ribs. All right, I'm going to place these ribs on the top rack, right smack in the middle. All right, so at this point, I'm going to let these ribs smoke for 4 hours without even opening the door, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, and just like that, it's been 4 hours. I have not looked at these ribs, so let's take a look at them. Let me slide this rack out so you guys get a better look. All right, so these ribs are looking really good. Now, if you notice, they have a really nice dark brown color. I like a little bit more bark than that, so I'm going to let these go for about another hour and a half. So if you're not a fan of that really dark Texas bark like I am, go ahead and wrap your ribs at this point with some aluminum foil nice and tight, throw them back in your smoker. I am a big fan of that Texas bark. So I'm gonna let these go for about another hour and a half, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so another hour and a half has passed. Total cook time, 5.5 hours. Let's take a look at these ribs. Oh yeah. Look at that bark now, guys. An hour and a half more gives us some really nice bark. That's exactly what I like. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and get an internal temperature and see where we're at. Oh boy, that feels tender. Look at that. These are almost ready, 190 degrees. They are feeling super tender. Look at that. All right, so I'm going to wrap these ribs up in foil just to push them over 200 degrees a little bit faster. All right, so just a very simple wrap. Over the rib, roll up the edges. Pack them in there really nice and tight. All right, I'm going to slide that rack in and shut our door. All right, so we've been smoking at 250 degrees. For the last few minutes of this cook, I'm going to go ahead and crank up the temperature to 275. Just like that. The ribs are already probing really nice and tender. This is probably only going to take an additional 30 minutes. I'll see you guys inside. All right, so the ribs are ready, and the total cook time was 6 hours and 20 minutes. Now I did have them resting for about 15 minutes, but they are still plenty hot. Let's take a look at these ribs and see how we did. Look at that, still nice and steamy. Oh yeah, look at that. Really nice pullback. All right guys, so first off, I am really impressed on how fast that Lone Star Grill's pellet smoker smoked these ribs. Again, 6 hours and 20 minutes, and you've got some perfectly smoked beef ribs. Number two, the aroma that's coming from these ribs, I mean, they smell like they came off an offset smoker. So the truth is gonna be in the flavor of these ribs. Again, super simple recipe, guys. We haven't done anything extremely difficult. So let's slice into these bad boys and see what they look like on the inside. I am expecting a really nice smoke ring. The amount of smoke that Lone Star Grill's pellet smoker and the Smokin Pecan pellets produces is just insane. And again, these ribs are really nice and tender already. Look at that, guys. Beautiful looking smoke ring, really nice and juicy. I'm barely putting any pressure, but look at that. Juicy as all get out. Now the trick with beef ribs is there's always going to be a bone that's got a little bit of meat. Just try to cut the middle one a little bit small, that way that last bone's got some meat on it. Look at that, slicing really nice. Look at that. Does that bone look amazing or what? And it's falling off the bone almost. All right, let's give them a try and see how we did. All right guys, check this out. Monster bone right there. Good smoke ring, nice and juicy. I gotta tell you, every time I smoke ribs, I tend to dry them out a little bit, but I think I learned a new trick. Right when they hit about 195 degrees, man, start to really monitor the ribs, make sure they don't dry out on you. But these are really juicy. My mouth is watering, and these are really hot, but I'm gonna dig in. Here we go. So good, look at that. I gotta tell you guys, these ribs are really nice and juicy, super tender, really good smoky flavor. I gotta tell you, this rub from Smokin Joe, this 421 brisket rub, is pretty savage. Look at that bark on this rib right here. Again, this was cooked on a pellet smoker, which is pretty amazing. Got a nice little chunk of beef rib right here. Guys, I gotta tell you, I am really impressed with the amount of smoke flavor that Lone Star Grills produces on these beef ribs. Now, I haven't smoked a brisket, like a Texas style brisket on that Lone Star Grills yet, but it's coming. I would love to challenge some seasoned pit masters to tell me if this was cooked on a pellet smoker or an offset smoker. First off, the bark creation is amazing. The flavor, it's really close to an offset smoker, and I gotta tell you, if I did challenge some of those seasoned pit masters, I would get a few of them. I hope you guys enjoyed this pellet smoker beef rib video. If this is your first time to my channel, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Until next time, Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit BBQ. See ya.